Hello there, Pogobat. I did actually watch your video about the rosy future that you present. And I have a little problem with your rosy picture. It all depends on whether we get more dependent on that smartphone or not. Here's the scenario. Have you ever read The Time Machine by H.G. Wells? That's Herbert George Wells. If you haven't, you should. And so should your audience. Why? Because those people became so dependent on their technology that they literally could not live without it. Now you say, well, that's not a big deal. Oh, as long as the electricity and the internet are there, it's not a big deal at all. Cut either of them off, you could have lots of starving people right off the bat. You know, as much as I disagree with NBC Revolution, there you go. A lot of people died in that TV show because there was no internet and no power. That's why I keep telling people, do not depend on that smartphone. Do not depend on that electricity. You depend on you. When you want an answer, access this. This should be your answer key, not that. There you go. Now then, you say, well, the internet and the electricity could never shut off. Really? Ask people of Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy. Ask those people who are in Syria right now without electricity or the internet. They're dying out there. So it can't happen. Do we have a solution for that? Not really. It's the overdependence on smartphones and the internet that causes our society to be so vulnerable. And let me tell you something, there are a lot of extremists in the Middle East that are counting on this. They want you to get that dependent, because one day, if they ever get a chance to walk into our country, there you go. We won't even know they're coming, because our heads will be buried in those smartphones. That's a problem. That's a big problem. So, that's why I've got my YouTube channels up here. To get the stuff in your brain, not their brains. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you the definition of the cloud. The cloud works like this. Instead of every bit of your information being stored on your hard drive, it's now stored on somebody else's server. So if that server ever disappears, you're in trouble. A bill collector can come to your house because you don't have your documents stored in your computer. So he comes to your house and he says, you still owe the bill. Now, you paid that dang bill a long time ago. But he comes back and says, you still owe the bill. And without any proof that you've ever paid it, there you go. Why do you think I still get paper statements on a lot of stuff? Because I want proof that I did what I did. And there you are. So I might kill a few hundred trees, but at least I'll have the proof that I paid all my bills. Even if it's nothing more than storing your bill information on a media card that is in your hands, it's better that than having it stored on the cloud. Better that. Because if that server gets destroyed, you're screwed. So that's why I don't want people to depend on their smartphones. I don't want people to depend on the cloud. Let me tell you something. Sears, after 100 years, is starting to collapse. That was a well-established company. JCPenney, same thing. There is no such thing as a company that is immune to crashing. None. If you want proof of that, look at Enron. Okay? So Yes, technically speaking, because YouTube is owned by Google, anything ever happens to that internet or those servers, there you go. Do you know that every video I've ever made is now stored on my hard drive as well as on YouTube? Yep. So I've got a backup for everything. If YouTube crashes and they have a new company, I just reload everything. I could be back up in a matter of days. Not everybody can say that. So, if our nation continues to become more and more dependent on the smartphones for everything, we will be very vulnerable, and that rosy picture will quickly disappear. And we'll be in a disaster. So I'm going to tell you people, don't depend on the internet. Don't depend on the cloud. Don't depend on these things. You depend on you. And as long as you do, you'll be okay. I agree there could be a rosy picture if you're the cloud and not the smartphone. If you are smarter than the smartphone, you're okay. If the smartphone is smarter than you, you're not. That's all there is to it. And that's all the speed learner has to say. I'll tell you more in future videos. Stay tuned.